And we are live. JT here. Welcome to The Huddle. The Huddle is where I sit down with successful people from the world of sport and coaching. It's to learn more about their journey to greatness. Why do I have these conversations? Because success always leaves clues. I want to take a moment to thank you. Whether you are tuning in live as we stream into our Facebook community, whether you are watching the replay on YouTube or on Facebook, or whether you're listening to the audio on the podcast, thank you so much for being here with me and my special guest today. And here's my reminder to you. The mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's wide open. My challenge to you is to go all in on this conversation. Remove any distractions and get laser focus on this conversation. And my guarantee to you is you will gain a valuable nugget of wisdom that will not only help you succeed in sport, but more importantly, in the game of life. I've been looking forward to my conversation with my special guest today. We've had a number of mutual connections. Kind of just draw my attention to the great work he's doing, just the messaging and just this overall, I don't know, it's just this message that just feels great to hear. My guest in the huddle today is a former pro athlete of 13 years. Now he's doing great work in the speaking space. He wrote a best-selling book, and more importantly, just an amazing human being from everything that I've seen. My guest in the huddle today is Angus Reid. How are you today, brother?
I'm fantastic, and I feel very honored that I've been invited on to have this conversation. So thank you. Thank you for bringing me on.
Yeah, definitely, Angus. Before we get kicked off here, and as I mentioned, I always like saying pun intended because it reminds me to enjoy, really connect to the joy in life. I'm a firm believer in the importance of counting your blessings. And for me, it's a daily practice. Some days I do it better than others, but again, that's where that practice comes in. So I firmly believe that the biggest blessing you can give anyone is your time and energy. So again, I just want to thank you for blessing me with some of your time and energy and being here with me and our community today.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. I love talking good things that I think are important. I think we do spend a lot of time communicating, but are we discussing things that actually matter? And I'm always happy to be involved in conversations that can create positive change in people's lives.
Awesome. Couldn't agree more, brother. So I'm curious. One thing I'd like to remind myself and others is that life is a game and games are supposed to be fun. I actually had a coaching colleague and a good friend that said, we all have our quirks. We all have these things that make us unique and different. And then we really got to celebrate it. So I'm curious, is there an interesting fact? Some may say a quirk that maybe a lot of people don't know about you that you'd be open to sharing with our community?
Yeah, I don't know if fact or information, but I think a lot of people, until you know the person, if you just know the occupation and maybe statistical realities of them in the occupation, you probably frame an image based on stereotypes, because if that's all you have, that's all you have, right? And so I was an offensive lineman, so we're these big, strong, brute guys, which is fair enough. On the one hand, I didn't fit the physical mold. I was the smallest in the league at what I did. I wasn't this ginormous human being. But really, I think what might interest people, or they wouldn't know this, is I grew up an artist. I was going to go to art school. I turned down an art scholarship to play college football. So, I don't know what most people's image of an offensive lineman would be without knowing them, but I don't know if creative artist is the first to come to mind, where my happy space is softies music. I'm not lifting the heavy metal smashing things. I'll lift in the softies, and I'm going to draw, and I'm going to paint, and I'm not painting so much, but draw artwork. Yeah. I'm happy just quietly trying to put visualizations down on paper and ink and pen. Even to this day, that's my real fun. Just which, if you didn't know me, you probably would never have guessed that.
Angus, I love the simplicity of that, right? Like, again, that simple word of creating. And I firmly believe that, creating and getting in that mindset is, where the joy of life is, because we embrace risk taking and just sort of putting our ideas, our thoughts onto paper or whatever song or whatever your medium is. So I really love that you're celebrating your creative gifts and find ways to express it.
And it's funny, as you get older, you look back on yourself and you start wondering, why did you do things? And why did I do things? Because when you're 17 or 18, you probably don't sit down and critically analyze why you're doing things. You just do what's enjoyable, and you don't really unpack why is it enjoyable to me. And you play sports because your friends play sports and you think it's fun and you want to go, you'd like to go to college and then maybe you want to play pro. And I don't know too many youngsters that really, really dive down to, why am I doing this? And that's fair enough. And you get older and you probably have perspective. And, I'm 100% certain now, I didn't play football for an outlet for aggression. Some people do, and that's good. That's a good outlet. If it's better than what I have no love of interest of hitting someone as hard as I possibly can. That's not me. Okay. I could do it. I'm a performer. I'm a creative artist. I loved, and I'm a team guy. So I loved working with others to put on something that was worthy of fans enjoying. And it was interesting to me. So, because I look back and I wasn't the guy who couldn't wait to just smash the opponent. That was the job. And I got really good at it. I just liked being out there, putting on a performance for friends, families, and crowds to go, this is enjoyable to watch. And I could be part of that stage. So for me, it was almost, whether it was performing arts on stage or creating an event for the fans to come to, sports was the outlet that I had enough skills, enough talent that I could fulfill my needs through that, which I enjoy doing. And anyways, I always think it's interesting when you look back on why people do what they do. And a lot of times it's not the surface level, what you think, what the assumption would be why you're doing it. And I think it was a way for me to be an artist, and I could just do that in the sports world.
Well, and what I love about that is you're talking about, like, football was just a tool, right? It was a vehicle, it was a platform
100%.
for you to share your gifts, your talents, and your abilities in the service of others, right? A greater purpose. So I'm curious, one thing that really fascinated with me about your journey, and again, I went back and listened to some of your TED Talks, and one of them was around why high school football is important. And you talked about your journey, that again, it was a slightly different one, because people would look at your journey, right, the end result, and kind of go, well, I think Angus kind of always got it. But you actually said it was, a coach that actually pulled you aside and made you feel like, he wanted you to be part of something. So I'd love to know, like, what has been the greatest lesson that sport has taught you and that you still find yourself applying today? I know there's a lot of them, but what would you say?
Okay. You know what? And I thank you for this platform, because I hope there's some young athletes listening, and I hope there's some parents listening of young athletes, because there is one thing that I am pretty 100% sure of. And I don't like to say that about many things, because I get, life, you keep learning and you keep disproving your beliefs. But one thing I feel pretty good about is a statement that I use a lot now when I speak to young athletes and parents. To me, what you do is not who you are. Who you are isn't what you do. It's how you do it. Everything is just an outlet. That outlet is not you. And there's that dangerous trap that people will fall into, that I'm a football player. No, you're not. You're JT. You might be playing football. And the whole image conscious that wrapped into, I am a football player. No, that's what you're doing right now. Because, and I've seen this, the danger happens where that becomes your entire identity, is the sport. Now it's not an outlet anymore. It's you. So what happens when you can't do it anymore, or your performance drops? Well, now your self-image has dropped. Your sense of what happens when it's gone? Now you're gone. And we talk about the depression that hits a lot of athletes now when they retire. It's no different than an entrepreneur that builds a business and sells it for $1 billion. But if they were the business, now they are nothing. And, you spoke about it. It's an outlet. So the biggest thing I learned was to make sure I separated myself from the sport, but how I went about it was who I was. And that could transfer to anything. So, you're not a football player. Football is how you express your hard work, your effort, your team camaraderie, whatever attributes that you are and you want to maximize, and you found an outlet to do that in. And, we spoke off air beforehand of, oh, you learn all the great things sports transfers. Well, you might, and I hope you do, because if sports is about running high, jumping far, and being strong, that's not going to transfer, right? And if that's what you think it is, and that's what you get praised for, and that's what you're proud of, that's a dangerous trap. And so if you got to remove yourself from, I was proud that I brought the qualities that I think are important in life to this event. And then I'll bring it home, and I'll bring those same qualities to my family tonight. And I'll bring them to my friends tomorrow, and I'll bring them to the community. And everything's an outlet for you to become more of you. The outlet isn't you. And I caution kids, and it's a hard world now because of social media and whatnot. And, they're promoting this great touchdown run, which is wonderful. And then people cheer them on because of it. Then they believe they're important because they scored a touchdown. And, that becomes the image based. And then what happens when they don't score a touchdown? Are they less of a person? And, it gets worse as it gets bigger, because now you get monetarily rewarded for the performance. So you become your performance. And I get it. But, if you're not smart enough to make sure you keep detaching your worth from that, your worth is, people use these phrases, right, the process or whatever, but your worth is how you do things, how you do it. Nobody can ever take that away from you. And that is who you are. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes the career ends, sometimes sports ends. And so even at a high school level, I was very fortunate to have two great mentors. One was our head coach, and one was my head coach, Coach Dalmani, and one was my offensive line coach, who was my English teacher, Coach Howie, that used football to help prepare us for life, to teach us about accountability, to being accountable not only to the program but to your peers, to show up when you say you're going to show up, to be diligent in your efforts in terms of paying attention, to be responsible enough to learn the tasks that are given to you, to be mature enough to bring your best efforts by choice. And the rewards were based on how much effort we put into what we could control. And we won, and we celebrated winning, but we didn't measure our value as people on winning. I learned that even as a teenager. And so I spend a lot of my time now speaking more to coaches than to our youth, because youth are just going to be products of how they're coached. The power is in the adult that should know better. And it's a big thing that I had learned a long time ago, that I was ready for college and ready for life to show up and bring my best, not to go, am I doing well or not because I won today or I didn't? No, every day, are you doing the things that you can control to keep moving yourself forward as a person? And today it's a meeting, tomorrow or after it's a conversation with your peer, it's dealing with a struggle. And those are the ones, as you said earlier, that's going to transfer, but that needs to be coached, that needs to be taught, that needs to be reinforced, that needs to be modeled, that needs to be celebrated when you're doing it right. So, oh, I'm winning the game. No, I'm acting correctly. Notre Dame has that great, University of Notre Dame has that great phrase that when you leave the locker room, play like a champion today. I say act like a champion always. Like, why just play today like a champion? How about you act like a champion when you're waking up, saying hello to your siblings, and when you're walking the hallways, and when you're meeting a stranger on the road? Act like a champion. You can always act like a champion, always, right? But that was taught to me when I was, here's the one thing I caution, and the more I speak to youth, is as you get older, you have more perspective on everything. So, when I was young, and by young, I mean, even when I was playing pro, I get asked to speak to kids, and you start trying to give them, here's the 3 things you do to success. And, this is what I did. And then as you get older, you start being even more aware that whatever you're giving them is based on a foundation of where I began. And what I mean by began is the family I had, the siblings I had, the environment I had that not everybody has. So we also, as coaches and leaders, have to be hyper aware that 14-year-olds show up as your team, and we go, this is where we're beginning. You got to know where they are at now. One kid's never had a dad. One kid's never had a sibling. They've been yelled at their whole life. Other people have had mom and dad and love their whole life. They're here. Someone's here to say, well, this is where we got to get to. Everyone is at totally different levels, and we got to go, okay, we have to appreciate that and not say, well, you just do this, and you'll be a winner. Well, this is going to take X amount to even get them there where someone else is ready. And that's where some of the greatest lessons I learned from Coach Dan Durazio when I was pro was that standards had to be objective. This is what winning is. This is what we expect. But coaching had to be subjective to the person. Not everyone's starting at the same place, not everyone has the same skill set. So a great coach can't say, this is how we do it. It's, I need to know you to know what you need from me to help get you there. Instead of saying, this is what we do, you got to adapt to me. Especially with kids, it's like, I need to find out where are you? So I can, one, be aware of that to know, I start here. Well, shoot, no, I got to come way down. I got to meet you where people say meet them where they're at. Well, you got to know where they're at. You got to care where they're at and go, okay, this person needs a lot of support and help to even get to the starting point. Instead of just that kid's not there, passing away. What are we doing? What are we doing here? Anyways, sorry, I kind of went really sidetracked on that one, but that can happen.
I appreciate you sharing your lived experience, I guess. And what I really heard from you again was, and why it resonated with me is, when I made the decision to leave the safe and comfortable world of teaching, and my wife did as well, we moved cities, it was interesting how, upon reflection, I realized, how much of my self-worth, my identity was tied up into teaching and coaching. And it's funny that through doing the work on myself, really looking within, studying myself, it was starting to understand it. It's sort of been this process this last 3.5 years of really learning, okay, what were the qualities and characteristics that allowed me to create success, professionally, and how to bring them into my personal life, because that's been the biggest area of growth. So that's why it resonates with me that you're talking about qualities, characteristics, really what I'm hearing, again, value-based coaching, as opposed to just looking at external metrics all the time.
Yeah. Listen, I challenge coaches all the time. If what you're coaching them in your practice session, if it won't transfer beyond your sport, you are wasting your kids' time. Now I get, and so the great coaches will teach you the block or the pass or the defensive shuffle, as whatever is needed that is specific to a sport. But in coaching it, if you are not layering and lacing educational tools that they can now have within them to adapt it to whatever other difficult situation is life, you have missed an opportunity to help raise our youth. Sports is just an outlet to grow up in, and some people make money in it, but you still should be growing up through it, like any career. And I'll challenge you one other thing too, on what you said about wrapping yourself up in your image. If you have an unbelievably difficult time transitioning from a career because of the loss of that job, that career, that right there is telling you were too wrapped up in that as being you. I'll never forget. And again, everybody's different, but there is an issue there. If you cannot leave the job, like I can't be without it. That's a problem. I don't know who I am without this job. Everyone should ask themselves right now, if my career was wiped away tomorrow, do I feel am I lost as a human being? Yeah, you might have to look for work, but like as a human being, when you're looking at yourself, am I empty? That is if I took it away right now, are you any different of a person? Sure, you got to find work, but like, if you are not going, I don't even know who I am anymore. That is a terrifying reality, that you have misread what these things were in the first place. I don't care what the job is. It is only an outlet to get better. And yeah, you need to make some money. But most people, as you know, I'm sure you've been able to chat with great high performers, the elite ones. The money is either just another part of the game of keeping track if they think they're doing well, or for some of them, it's just a side benefit that they just get. That has nothing to do with the bigger picture. They're looking for avenues to help them grow and challenge themselves to be a better human being. And then when that task is done, let's go find something else. But you can still make money here. That's not what we're doing. I need opportunities to find out more of who I am so I can become a better person, because you can't improve unless you know who you are, because then you can't measure anything. Right? You're just hoping you feel good today, and that's a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I love that bit of love tough. Right? Is that some of those questions, again, it hasn't been a comfortable process for me, right? And it's really, I love the fact that you really need to look at yourself in the mirror and really start to ask yourself those questions. And I had a great mentor that said, hey, your willingness to ask yourself the tough questions will ultimately determine your quality of life. And again, I know that seems, it's an interesting process, because sometimes I know I don't really feel like going down those ways, but I know
Who does?
there's something for me to unlock.
Listen, well, human nature wants to avoid uncomfortable, negative things like crazy. Because a million years ago, that was a tiger going to eat you or something, right? But who consciously wants to go to difficult places? So better to eat ice cream and just feel good because you have a nice, sugar rush and life is good again, right? And I don't have to deal with it. So let's just, the adults make poor choices of what they do to make bad things go away momentarily, right? Because who wants to consciously face it? Well, people that want to get better, right? I don't want to, there's just two options. You can just consciously try to keep avoiding feeling bad or consciously want to get better, which is going to make you go where you don't want to go. And that's where, when it comes right down to it, what I care most about sports is not, let's pick the best athlete and pay them big money. That's the worst thing you can possibly do, because one, you haven't helped that person become a better human being. You've said you'll be rewarded till your physical talents run out. And now you're screwed in life, because that's why you have worth, because you were gifted to be able to jump high or something, right? And we exploited that, monetized it. Now we got rid of you. Or we're willing to say, okay, what do you really want to be? And let's go find out what's getting in the way. And do you have the courage to see how good you can really become? Because the bottom line is, you can fake it through life and make $1 gazillion if you just play the rigged game, if that's what you're trying to do. Or do you really want to find out who you can become? Because no one's going to know that answer except you. And so do you have the courage to not make sure we're fooling the world and not fool yourself? Because, the easiest person in the world is to lie to yourself, and no one would know, right? So will you literally sit down and unpack yourself and try to be as objective as possible? Or at least, and this is where I'm a big fan of needing mentoring and coaching all the time, because even the best in the world can never be completely objective for themselves. It's impossible, because you're being objective through a subjective lens. So it's absolutely impossible. So, you need a mentor or a relationship, whether it be your wife or husband or somebody, or your parent or your sibling, sometimes your older sibling, maybe, that they can get to the point and go, listen, stop BSing me and stop BSing yourself. And they know that cold slap in the face. And, we're unfortunately in a world where a lot of moms and dads just want their kids to feel happy around them. We just want to make them feel good because it's easier, right? It's hard to challenge them. And then at a certain point, if you've never done it, now we come down hard on them and they break. And they're like, oh, my kid's soft. Well, that should have been a layering process over the years of constantly, molding them to be a little bit able to deal with a little more. And, you look at parents and it's simple things. They're trying their best, but little Johnny scores 3 goals, and now you buy him ice cream afterwards because he scored 3 goals. So what's he equating to? Why am I loved? Why do I matter? Because I scored 3 goals. So I better keep scoring 3 goals. If you don't have that conversation and everyone's getting ice cream because we won, I better keep winning then. Because obviously they want me ice cream. That means they care about me and they're happy with what I'm doing. And it was what I won. And we don't talk about anything else. So we have to keep winning. So kids are going to cheat, or now they're going to be so sad when they don't win because we're not going to get ice cream. So mommy and daddy aren't happy. That means I've lessened my value. And if you like I said, you deal with surface level like that, and our kids that are navigating self-worth and who am I and where's my value, and I couldn't score. We didn't get a celebration meal today. That means I failed. And not only are we not having difficult conversations, I don't think we have enough proactive conversations on the front end of what success means, but what expectations mom and the dads and coaches, like, what do we consider a win? Yeah, we're going to go try to win a championship, but what's a win for us? And, I coach high school football now, and our kids lost a heartbreaker in a championship game. That it was goofy this year because of COVID. And then out west, we had our highway collapsed. Yeah. So we were in the Okanagan, and our boys couldn't go compete. They wouldn't let anyone come over. So we got blocked out of it. So they made everyone in the Okanagan kind of play each other. And we're a AA school. So we had to play the AAA school, which was, they say it's unfair, but they were trying to make the best of it. So we had to play this massive school, and we took them head to head, and we lost last second. We couldn't get a quarterback sneak, and we would have won. It would have been a massive upset. And our kids now were dejected. Right. And you have to sit there and in the moment, you get it, because I remember being 17, and it is your whole world, and you've lost, so you're a failure, right? And you have to remind them, and this is that messaging of winning a championship and being a champion doesn't always mean the same thing. One does not always equate to the other, okay? Being a champion is what I talked about earlier. how you go about what you've chosen to do with your life,
Mm-hmm.
how you do things. You go out and you prepare accordingly. You bring your best, and you don't get after each other when negativity hits, and you support each other and you pull through and you fight till the very end with everything you have. Sometimes you win the championship, sometimes you don't. You're a champion. And nobody can take that away from you. And you know that deep in your heart, you can win a championship just because you're better than the other team. That does not make
Mm-hmm.
you a champion. That just made you better than the other team. And our society puts a premium that I won a championship. Did you become your very best? Nah, that's just good enough. Okay. The other kid never wins it, but they were champions. And they need to remind yourself as an adult, as someone they look up to say, am I doing good or not? Because you're 15, 16. They don't know. They're looking. And if I don't tell them, they'll say we lost championship because that's the only measurable they know about. Unless as adults, we are continuously messaging what actually matters. And that's what we're going to praise because you made a decision. We enforced it. We modeled it and we rewarded it. Oh, that's what really matters. Yeah. And we'll celebrate winning. It's good to celebrate it, but we're not gonna equate your human success on that. It's good to do, absolutely. But what we're proud of and what you should be proud of is how you went about it. That's what matters. That's what really, really matters. And I think we need a lot more messaging on that. A lot more messaging from coaches on the front end and coaches discussing with parents. This program, we need your help across the board to have unified messages to our kids that this is what we value. This is what we're going to coach. This is what we're going to encourage. This is what we're going to model. This is what we're going to support. This is what we're going to reward. And we're going to go after winning championship too. Of course, it's good to win and we're going to celebrate winning. But that's not what that's what our kids are going to remember if they're winners or not. That's not what it's going to be about. We're going to go after it. We're going to try to win games 100% because that's that external marker to push ourselves against, to try to overcome that other person trying to do the same thing, which is good. It's healthy. It's right to compete. You need to compete or else you'll never become your best. But when it comes right down to it, that's not what it's going to dictate whether our kids are, champions or not. Champion is how you do it. A hero is a hero because of the conscious decision of what they've chosen to do, not because they beat the monster or not. It's because of what they decided to do and how they did it. That's why you're a hero. Unfortunately, our history books write heroes are the ones that won. And that's that the lesson then becomes, well, then I'll win at any cost because otherwise I'm a loser. And that's danger.
Well, it's interesting. And again, I'm a big word guy and I definitely picked up on a couple of things. I thought about what is the safe, when you first meet someone, typically, what is that safe and comfortable question that most people ask? Well, what do you do? Right. So again, that question gets ingrained into human behavior. So people lead by saying, hey, I do ABC, where I noticed a couple of times, like, who do you want to be? Who do you want to become? Right. What qualities, characteristics do you want to embody to, in your essence, your being? So I love how that subtle difference between doing and being is really it's everything. And I just think like what you're talking about skills and coming from a background in education, I know that many people are unaware of that subtle difference, how that really does program, condition, train the mind into starting to identify their self-worth, their value based on what they do, as opposed to what are the qualities they're being today.
Yeah. And you're so right. Everybody. So what do you do? That's what we lead with. So most times in life, we put scale of importance, most important first, and we filter down in everything you do, right? That's just kind of what happens. Whatever's most important usually leads. So if we go, what do you do? Well, obviously that's most important to me. So it must be most important to you. So it's the most valuable thing there is to know about you. So of course, and that's a conditioning thing, right? And then the hierarchy based on, that's what you do. You must not, you're kind of lower on the rung than me. Well, and that's how we measure, and it's awful. And our kids see it and they look at it and they repeat because everything's modeling. So it doesn't matter what we say either. It's what are we going to model? So we can talk all we want about, what's going to matter, what's not, but their kids are going to look and go, well, what are you rewarding? So at the end of the day, you say it matters, but really you're still giving this kid all the accolades because he scores all the goals. So he's more important, right? And especially with our youth, because they're sitting here watching, trying to formulate because you said everything's a game, right? So they're formulating, how do I win in life? And if they don't have explicit ideas of what the rules are and what they're worth, they're going to formulate their own, and they're going to go to the basic foundation of praise or monetary rewards. So whoever gets money is winning. So whatever they're doing is right. And I got to do that or I'm a loser. And this is why as adults, it's so powerful that we need to never stop communicating, modeling, reinforcing, and rewarding the behaviors that we have as mature people realize matters. And we have the experience of life to go, that's the wrong rabbit to chase, right? Or shall we say, you can chase the rabbit, but you better be anchored in the bigger things while you're chasing that rabbit, right? I'm going to go win a championship, but I know where that sits on my ability to be okay with myself no matter what the outcome is. I'm going to still chase it because I'm a competitive person, but that's not going to dictate what kind of human being I believe I am. But in absence of any messaging, modeling, reinforcement, encouragement, I won't know the difference. So that's all there is. And without it, I am nothing. And that's a failure of adults, because I'm trying to formulate what, if no one's ever told me anything else matters, then why would it? And if no one's ever actually shown me that anything else matters, because kids are skeptical, because you can tell what you want to them, they watch what you do. They watch who still gets the rewards, because that sounds nice, but this is truth. And they're formulating. So we have to be hyper conscious of not just, the messaging we say or the slogans we put on the wall. How are we acting and what are we rewarding? They're going to know right away. And another thing I learned from a great coach a long time ago was, and I try to use this in my practice sessions now, is it's not what you teach that matters. It's what you emphasize. So again, coming back to coaching life through football, I coach offensive line. That's my world. And so everyone's got their knowledge base, but it's all kind of the same thing. It's, you're going to teach your technique, but then I'm big with ours is where are your eyes going? And so we're going to hammer in on the importance of a visual contact to a target. And I'm trying to let them know that where focus goes, energy flows. And that's going to be a universal trait in life now. So if your eyes are wandering, your energy's wandering, everything's wandering, and there's no precision. And we can't now measure or improve because we don't know what we're trying to do. There was no purpose behind your action. You're just sort of hoping for the best. Now I'm hoping that's a universal trait now. What's the plan? Where's the focus? Where's the attention? And then you look, did it work? What went wrong on the scale? Well, I don't even know what I was looking at. Well, how do we coach? How do we improve? How do we measure? And so, it's a kid going, look, this is what I want to get done. Okay, so let's make it specific, fun. Where are we trying to go? There's the target. Okay, let's do everything we can to help you hit it. And here's all little techniques. But remember, it's where the focus goes, energy is going to flow. So where are we focusing? So in football, it's the eyes on this near shoulder. That's football. But when they learn that, they put that in everything they do. And then they send the power saying, I'd like to do this. Okay, fine. Where's your focus going though? I don't know. Good luck. Let's focus in on what we deem most important. And if we hit it, let's see if it worked. Then we learned something. Or if it didn't, maybe we put the focus in the wrong spot. And they'll learn that in blocking. It was a shoulder. Okay, let's move it into the number. That worked. Good. So we redirect focus. To me, that's trying to teach a life lesson there through coaching a sport, right? What am I emphasizing? Other guys are, you got to drive this guy so we get the ball down the field. Well, now the kid there's nothing beyond just blocking somebody. That should be a teaching point, or hopefully.
It's interesting, like as you shared that, right? Like just giving that football analogy there, I thought of, again, for you, it's about teaching universal principles. It's about teaching these greater life lessons so that, again, yes, they can apply it. It'll help them become successful in the football field, but more importantly, the game of life. So I'm curious, as you discussed, one of the things, as I mentioned before we came on here, that really resonated with me is, again, you talked about this, the importance of teaching to embody, demonstrate certain characteristics, certain qualities, right? And again, from within. So I'm curious, what has that messaging like? Because you speak to a lot of coaches. Are most coaches open to those ideas of focusing more on the person, meeting them where they're at, qualities, characteristics, as opposed to just X's and O's and schemes and everything?
I think it comes down to, are you forced into this conversation with me, or are you wanting to? And if you're wanting to, then you're open to it.
Yeah.
But and here's the truth, and it's nobody's fault. I think most people are always open to something they think will work. But then who consciously sits down and works on themselves to actually start trying to implement it and then measure it and review it, right? I'll listen. We're all guilty of it. We listen to stuff like, that's a great idea. And then it's a memory of a nice thing, and you didn't change your life, but you're like, that. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. That's really smart. Okay. Did you do anything with it? Like, did you sit down now and go, I am now going to consciously start implementing this into my days. Like, I'll give you guys a little cheat sheet from a keynote I give that I don't think you've probably never seen it. And I talk about 3 things I believe everybody needs. And I was taught by a coach that everybody needs to know they belong. If they don't think they belong, then forget it, right? They're going to feel like an outsider. And you can do that as a leader. You can do it beyond giving them a t-shirt. That becomes making sure they feel valued, right? Do they have a purpose in this group? Otherwise, what are they doing here? Everybody needs to know someone believes in them. That isn't their mom, right? And they need to know that. They can't just be like, well, I'm sure they know that. I'm sure they know that. Really? Do you tell them? Do you tell them often? People forget. Do you tell them all the time? Or are you just kind of hoping they know? And they need to know they can. And so have you taught them a skill that actually has enabled them to improve what they do? And then once you teach them that, then they think, well, what else can't I learn? Anything you want, right? If you can show them one thing. But here's my one I give to leaders is, kind of a daily check-in that I try to do. And I think you spoke earlier about, being grateful for everything in life. And to me, I try to expand that to being thankful to others. So I try to really put it to people, because I'm grateful for things, but a lot of them are they're hard to personally thank. I'm thankful I have air today and I'm breathing, and like, that's good. That's good. But I'm more of a human guy, right? So I want to explicitly make sure someone knows how much they've affected me. And it was Coach Dan's. I mean, anyone's read my book. It was Coach Dan's letters that remind me. I have 210 letters at home that he used to write his guys for every single game, handwritten, right? And they show up in our door. We're pro athletes. This is our job. But he wanted to remind us how proud he is of us, and believes in us. And like, 2 minutes. I'm like, it never a week went by that I didn't know he had my back. And he's probably gonna have to cut me one day, yell at me. He's not always gonna write, but he believes in me as a human being. And it never stopped reminding him. Like that's so powerful. But anyways, I talk to leaders that I work with in businesses, and I say, listen, here's a little daily check-in for you. Like, who can I thank today? And people are like, oh, I thank you all the time. Well, just, is it part of your to-do list? Like, actually put it down. So like, oh, I do that. I forgot last day's day. Make it part of your to-do list. Like, actually make it happen. Who can you thank today? I don't care if it's a text. I don't care if it's a phone call. If every single day you do that, that's 365 guaranteed thank yous a year to somebody. That's powerful, okay? Because they're like, oh, they know I'm thankful. Tell them today, right now, before you have a coffee. And I don't care if it sounds crude, take it off the list, because you actually believe in it, but this list reminds you to do it, right? Because it's like, oh, you said, that's a good idea. Then put it on your list and do it. And see if it worked. And then instead of going, that was a good idea, but I didn't have time to fit that in, because you didn't fit it in. So, thank somebody. Who can I thank? Who can I reach out to that I haven't in a long time? You think of your old friends. Send them a note. Call them. Actually do it. Don't just be like, oh, yeah, it'd be great to reach out to the person. Get on the list, get it done. Watch what'll happen in your life when you actually take action on things that are good ideas, right? Who can I offer to help today? Just randomly. Could you imagine, as a leader, you go in your organization and go, hey, JT, what can I do to help you today? Any work I can take off your plate? Imagine you just ask somebody that. Well, put on your list, ask someone every single day. You'll probably get a nothing, but you'll imagine what you'll do for the connectivity of that person going, this guy cares about me. Yeah, put it on your list, right? And who can I congratulate for whatever? If you did that every single day, that's 365, 4 positive reinforcements you give to 4 different people again and again and again. Say, those are great ideas. Put on your list and get it done every single day. It'll take you 5 minutes. The compounding effect of that, and then after probably a month and a half, you won't have to look at your list anymore. It's what you do. So again, it's not what you believe is good. It's not agreeing with ideas. What do you do? And what do you consistently do? Because I know people too, the work, maybe even worse than never doing any stuff, is randomly doing team building sessions. And the guy goes, we're just wasting our time. You're right. What do you do every day? Dan Gable, one of the legendary wrestler out of the US, I always throw him up there as maybe one of the greatest competitors in sports history. And he's a great man to study if you want to understand competitiveness. He has a great quote that says, if it's important, do it every single day. If you love your wife, tell her every single day. If you love your kids, tell them I love you every single day. And if you work out every single day. Eating right, then eat it right every single day. Like, if it matters to you, we spoke earlier about what do you do? Because we prioritize that. Well, whatever is actually important, do it every single day. Don't have a weekend retreat 4 times a year where you do nice things and have nice feelings. I mean, just go to a nice concert and have a good memory then. What do you do every single day? That is who you are. That's who your team is, your culture is, and map that out. So people talk about culture and this and that. what do you want? Put it down and do it. And then review these things going, is this the kind of world I want to live in? Then maybe we should try this. Then put it down and do it and review it and go, this is improving life for people. Or this isn't. And get rid of it. Don't hang on to it because, whoa, we've done this forever around here. Get rid of it. Is it making things better? Is putting that in your mouth making your life better? Is saying that word making your life better? Is that action going to help? Someone asked me before about, and I do a lot of work with companies on like bullying and abuse in the workplace. And people are like, oh, now it's all politically correct, hypersensitive. I said, look, two things. One, no, but you have to be aware that not everybody's you. So what's funny to you might not be funny to. So stop being so arrogant, thinking that everybody's you and everyone's has your privileges, your upbringing, your support systems, and like, one. But two, just think before it leaves your mouth. Will this help them? If not, why say it? Could this help them? And sometimes a joke to them will help them, but you better damn well know the person. So that's going to force you to know them. Because how do I know it's going to help you, JT, until I know you? Now I got to get to know you. Now it's harder just being an ass around you because I know you. So now I'm going to start to care about you. Now you're an individual and I'm going to learn what makes you tick and what your issues are and problems. So now I have better awareness of how to communicate with you. See how that works, right? How's it going to help them? How am I going to know? Well, then if you don't even know them, why say anything? Get to damn know them. Ask them some questions. Most open-ended, caring questions aren't going to hurt anybody. They're actually going to build bridges. Start there. Is this going to help them? And if you're not 100% sure, tread caution till you know. Then you know. So as a coaching 101 is get to know your players and then constantly ask yourself, how can I help them? And you're like, I'm not sure. Then I better get to know them better. Then you'll learn. Then every interaction should be, how can I help them become a better person? Whatever that means, right? Whatever that means to each individual. And I think the greatest hardship of coaching, particularly a sport like football, is, I got 60 players. We can't do that. This is how we do things. And that is a challenge. So, on some level, how do you have your standards as a team, but understanding everyone's an individual, and how can I help each individual get to my standard instead of saying it's up to you to figure it out? Well, then you're the coach. You're going to put the responsibility on the players to figure it out. I thought you're their leader. Your job is to help them get to where they need to get to be their best, right? Or something like that.
I love what you're sharing, Angus. And what I really heard from you again was, you mentioned, culture, right? Culture, the word culture gets thrown around in sport, but really, if we peel that back, what is it? It's group habit, right? So what do you consistently do on a daily basis, right? And like you said, your actions speak louder than your words. And it was interesting that you kind of tied that up with, again, I was watching, how you talked about trust being an important skill that needs to be. And it's interesting how, again, from my experience, as an athlete or as a coach, the teams that, quote unquote, were the most tight, the ones that were, quote unquote, the most successful were the ones where the trust it was just such a deep level of trust. It was like a greater sense of community and a deeper sense of family. So, yeah. So I'm curious here. Yeah.
Well, I think the whole trust thing to me is about being very proactive with expectations, communication, and then never stopping that ongoing accountability of the accepted or the agreed upon standards and activities. And it can never stop. Problems happen when communication dies off, and then the assumptions, and then the accusations, and then whatnot. And I think it's something you said earlier about most people don't want to go to dark places. And one of the darkest places I find, or one of the not darkest, one of the hardest, most uncomfortable places in today's world's changed a lot than 20, 30 years ago, is confrontation. I deal with a lot of youth. They're much easier to text than to look you in the eye and say, listen, remember we talked about this and it's not happening. Instead of saying, you're a dumbass, clean your mess up, let's go. Like, remember we talked, what's going on? How can I support you? Because is everything okay? Because remember, we're going to be here. And that's hard for adults because we'd rather just go, he sucks, get rid of him. Deal with it, build trust and say, listen, I'm here to help you, but I'm not just going to let you do whatever you want because we don't want to deal with it. And then we're going to go head on this, but we're going to approach it from a position of caring about you, but also understanding we need everybody here. How can we help make sure you get there? Because we care enough about you not to let you fall apart. We're going to get you, and we agreed to it. Those are hard conversations. And that's when I gave that TED talk. Listen, the mechanics of football has changed and people love no huddle offense for other reasons. I spoke about life lessons. I love the huddle because it's a rare place in the world where we continuously get together, look each other 6 inches in the eye, and have to go to you and realize, I didn't do it well. I screwed up. Yes, you did. Let's solve it now, instead of letting it fester for 3 days and going, this guy's killing us, pissing us off. And then little fiefdoms build and we start talking about each other and gossip builds. That is no trust. So the huddle met issues head on immediately, face to face, and dealt with them. So nothing lingered, nothing broke apart. And I equated that to the family meal. Families that sat down, dinner every night, 5 minutes, 2 seconds, 20 minutes, but every day. If it matters, you do it every day. So things couldn't build and linger without talking about them, without dealing with them. You'll never have trust if issues aren't discussed. Because now opinions and assumptions and anger, that's the most toxic culture to ever have. And then most cultures want to avoid it. And they'll send out a generic email. All staff should be accepted to act like this. How about we have opportunities for people to be human? We sit down, we hold each other accountable in a caring way, in a supportive way, in a positive way. And that's normalized so that it doesn't become awkward. It's what we do. And sometimes those momentary conversations are just about celebrating good things. Sometimes they're not. So it's not only time we get together is rough. We always get together. There's a program I do for bullying and harassment. I say, one of the best ways to intervene if you're a bystander, because they're like, oh, it's too confrontational. I'm like, what if you just ask, hey, you doing okay? Everything okay? Like, well, that's kind of awkward. I say, you know why it's awkward? Because you don't say it every day. Why aren't you saying that every day? If you say you're a culture that cares about each other, what if everybody walked into work or your locker room every single day and looked at each other? Doing good? JT, doing good? Yeah, it's good. You all good? All good? Why? Because I care. Because if you're like, well, that's awkward, that means you've never said that to each other. That's crazy to me. How are we not checking in every day? Everyone okay? We're here for you. Any issues? Let's help. And if that becomes normalized, the difficult conversations are always laced within so many more not so difficult. It's just another conversation, right? Like I talk to people about working out. You work out, you bench press once a week, you're going to make it the biggest deal in the world. If it's a bad session, you're pissed off all week. If you bench press 10% of that total load every day, it's just something you do every day. Some will be good, some will be bad, but the volume would add up over time and you wouldn't stress about one thing. We always do this. It's normalized. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, instead of going, every time we get together, it's a negative interaction. So I just want to avoid that like crazy. It's communication. Sometimes they're tough, sometimes they're celebrating, sometimes they're funny. It's normalized. And that way you vet out the stressfulness of really, this issue being deemed bad. It's talking, it's building trust. Sometimes it's high-fiving, sometimes it's anger. It's humans. We're just bonding again and again and again. And I find that being something, again, isn't emphasized anymore. And we're seeing the ramifications of not getting together ever anymore, not dealing with it. It's tough.
I love the simplicity of your question, Angus. What really resonated with me is that idea of here's where we're going, right? Like you're sort of like painting, using your words to paint this vision of here's where we're going, right? Helping people sort of just create an image on the screen of their mind and go, what can I do to help and support you to get there? And I just love it because the person's going to tell you if that bridge of trust has been built, they're going to tell you what they need in this moment, right? So I just love that subtle one. And it's definitely one that I want to integrate, especially with my son, because I know that that's the one relationship sometimes where I need to be less coach, more like listening. So I definitely love that. That's one I'm going to integrate.
Yeah, I try to do that too. Like I get, my boys are 6 and 3, and I get those people time, oh, your kid's going to be football players. I'm like, I have no idea. I'm not telling them what to do. I'm supporting them. The only thing I'm going to hold them accountable to is I want them doing something. And my job is I want to expose them to as many things possible. And then whatever they choose to do, they bring their all. So it better be something they love, not something I love. And like, it's a great point. You hire someone for a company or I just read a great book on Nick Saban in Alabama, and they said, they're Alabama, so they can pretty much, everyone wants to play there. But most of their recruiting process now is ensuring recruits know what they're signing up for at Alabama. And do you really want this? Because this isn't going to be easy. And the kid goes, then this might not be for you. And you said, like, if I'm a leader, you say, where do you want to go? Well, I want to go here. Okay, glad we got that out of the way, because if I'd ever asked you that and I just told you where you need to be and you don't want to be there, now I'm going to be mad at you and it's going to be a disaster relationship, but you didn't want to go there in the first place. So, and someone had said this to me before, great leadership, great coaching is getting somebody from point A to point B when point B is where they want to go and they can't get there alone. Getting someone from point A to point B when they don't want to go to point B is coercion. It's manipulation. That's not leadership. Leadership is going, JT, this is where we're at. Where do you want to get to? And if that's the line we want to get to, go, okay, well, how can I help get you there? And if you say, I want to get to B, but I'm like, I got to get you over here. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm just going to make you get there. That's not leadership. You're going to hate me. And then it's a grind and all these other stupid words people come up with, doing something they don't want to do. Why are you doing it then?
Yeah.
What hard work getting where you want to get to should never be a grind. I gave a talk yesterday to the University of Calgary, University of British Columbia teams. I said, the whole concept of grind is nonsense. It's a negative connotation. You are consciously doing something you love to do every day, and you get to do it maybe twice today, maybe for 2 weeks straight with nothing else. You're the luckiest people in the world. You call it a grind, you're labeling something as like a forced hardship on you. Yeah. Right? This is part of the process of going where you want to go. You should be smiling ear to ear. It doesn't mean it's easy, but to label something negatively is mind-blowing because nobody's locked you up and made you do this. This is your dream. You get a chance to do it all day today. You want to do this, right? Then don't. And if you don't, then everything's a grind. But if you love to do it, it's not a grind. Yeah. It's the greatest day of your life, right? Coach Dan will remind us every day. Every day is a holiday. Every meal's a banquet. Every single one. If it's not, maybe you're not doing the right thing with you. Maybe pick another outlet. Every day is a holiday. Every day we wake up. If you're doing what you've chosen to do, there's no grind. There's an opportunity to keep doing what you love or becoming who you are through something that you enjoy, however you want to phrase it, right? And mindset's everything.
Yeah, I love it. I want to be respectful of your time, Angus. So my question to you is, what can we do to help and support you? Again, I know you've.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. Like, listen, I just enjoy conversations. I try to, like you said, our coach is open to my messaging. I try to be open to everyone else's, and I'm not. I don't just drink people's Kool-Aid and keep drinking it. I taste and taste, and I'll test and I test, and I love learning, and I'll cherry pick something that makes sense. But I also understand you can't randomly plug in a random ingredient to a soup. You change the whole soup, right? So I'm always looking for what can complement my overarching philosophy from other people. So just these continual conversations, I'm always trying to I try. I don't want to keep rebuilding, because if you keep rebuilding, you never have an engine that works. Yeah. I love polishing. I want to polish and looking, where's it rougher, I can polish out, and little things you can pick up along the way to improve what time has proven me is right philosophically, but in action based. How do we keep coming up with better ways to actually do what we want to get done in the big picture? So listen, just thank you for having me on. It's in a selfish way too, because I ramble a lot, but that's how I unpack my thinking. So having me on these things, the more I talk it through, the more I catch myself going, what the hell am I even saying? That doesn't even make sense. Or it helps me kind of come up with maybe some new ideas within my own world. So I appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, it's all good, brother. Angus, I want to take a moment to thank you and really acknowledge you. I want to acknowledge you for the man you are, the great dad, the great partner, teacher, coach, and mentor, but more importantly, the amazing human being you are. The one thing I really have got from this conversation, Angus, is just how thoughtful you are, right? Like your ability to stop and ask a thought-provoking question is a gift. And I know it's been you putting in a lot of reps and sets to train your mind to have that discipline to do it. So I just want to thank you for sharing your gift with us today. And thank you for inspiring me to figure out ways I can do a better job of that.
I appreciate that. It's great to be around people that want to get better. It's always inspiring. Thank you. Thank you for your time, JT.
No worries. So folks, here's my challenge to you. Angus dropped so many valuable nuggets of wisdom that will not only help you succeed in sport, but more importantly, in the game of life. But as I often remind you in the huddle, knowledge is potential power. It's a consistent and focused application of great knowledge that actually creates great results. So take one of these valuable nuggets of wisdom and go apply it to your life today. And as I remind you every time in the huddle, you are deserving of greatness. You are worthy of greatness. You are greatness. And my only ask from these conversations is If this resonated with you, share it with a friend, a loved one, a teammate, someone who needs to hear this message. Because the more people we have understanding these simple ideas, the more people can shine bright in this life. And that's what this life is about. As always, I love having these conversations. Have a blessed rest of your day, and I will chat with you next time in the huddle.